Sean Putney. I am the Executive Director, CEO at the Kansas City Zoo and Aquarium.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to another Kansas City Zoo and Aquarium episode of the Rossifari podcast. So last week, I mentioned in my episode with Sean Putney that Sean had given Zoe and I a behind the scenes, actually a in front of the scenes and then a behind the scenes tour of the aquarium at the Kansas City Zoo and Aquarium. And so I mentioned that I would need to go through it to see how much content we had and to see if it would be like a little bonus thing or if it was enough for a full episode. And it turns out that even with all of the editing down of walking places and the times that we were just looking at stuff without talking, it still lasted like 46 minutes. And it was chock full of goodness. So, as you can imagine, I decided to make that this week's episode. Now, this is one of those, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times kind of things. And here's why. The content is fantastic. You already know from last week that Sean is incredible. A bunch of you reached out to tell me just how much you loved him. A few of you even reached out to say, please release this as bonus content because they didn't want to wait a week. And to you, I say, sorry, but you're getting it now. So quit your whinging. And it's also really exciting because this is the first time we've done something like this. We've done episodes that are like a walk through a collection, like a bunch of animals. But this is the first time that we've done an episode where you're literally going to go on a tour of the facility from the exhibits to the behind the scenes stuff. We're not just talking about like the giant Pacific octopus and sea turtle that you're going to get to hear about on this episode, but you're also going to get to go hear about the dive lockers and the bathrooms and where the salt water gets made and stuff. And I personally think all of that stuff is really fascinating, and knowing most of you, I think you will as well. So that is the best of times situation. Here's the worst of times situation. The mic that Sean was wearing apparently had an issue. Now, we never took our mics off from when we started the very first part of the interview you heard last week through the end of this. And normally when I'm recording, I have a headphone in and I can hear what's going on, but not when I'm walking around. But in almost 5 years of doing this, I've never had an issue quite like this before. I think what happened is the hug that you heard last week, right towards the end of the episode, caused this mic to get jacked up somehow. So even though this is an in-person interview where we're walking together, it kind of sounds like a crappy Zoom call. And I did everything in my power to clean up the audio. But the problem is that sometimes the audio just wasn't getting from the microphone to the receiver. So there was nothing to clean. Now, the good news is I listened to it and I genuinely, everything in here, you can hear. You can totally tell what's going on. You might have to try a little bit harder than usual. If you just have this on as background noise, or if you listen without headphones, it might be a little more challenging. But I had to make the decision of whether to scrap all of this incredible content with an incredible guest, or to have y'all work a little bit harder than usual to hear it. And let's be honest, my audio is better than probably any independent podcast out there most of the time. So I figured that y'all could suck it up for a week. But seriously, I do apologize for what happened. And I wish I had known in advance. But this content is so worth putting up with the annoying Zoom call aspect of it all. And who thought that my worst ever sounding Zoom call would be an in-person interview? So with all of that said, we're going to get to the episode here, or the interview. We're already in the episode. That's what you're listening to. But I do want to remind y'all to make sure that you hit subscribe. That way you won't miss any of my Tuesday interview episodes or Friday Zoo News episodes. Make sure that you're following along on the socials at Rossifari, at Rossifari Pod, on the TikTok machine, and all that good stuff. And with that said, here is a tour of the entire aquarium at the Kansas City Zoo and Aquarium with our good buddy, Sean Putney. Enjoy, y'all. All right, so we're in the aquarium.
Now, obviously, we use the entryway here to thank the folks who gave us money. We actually have 3 different ways to thank people. This is everybody who gave $100,000 and up on this wall. We have another one that's towards the end of the exhibit that recognizes people from $5,000 donations to $99,999. I don't know why you wouldn't give the extra buck to me on this wall.
Right.
And then outside, we recognize that there are a lot of people who would love to see their family associated with the zoo and are zoo lovers, and but couldn't afford, $1,000 or $5,000. So that wall, series of walls, is for anybody who donates $250 to $5,000.
I love that.
And we've got a lot of people in that category. So that all adds up. And that helped us to build this building.
Yeah, no, I love that so mumuch. We, at Lehigh Valley Zoo, they were doing a red panda habitat, and Rossifari raised, I think, $500 to help them out. And we got our little plaque up there for Rossifari, and cool. Giving the ability to get that kind of thing for a smaller donor. And I mean, 500 is not a bad amount of money, but I can't do 10,000, whatever. Right. Really meant a lot to me and meant a lot to my community.
And it gives you that connection too, that I helped with that.
These are our pandas. Yeah, that's right. 100%.
So, like I said, we start off in the shallows, and ordinarily we have a wave tank in here that's going. Okay. It appears that the wave maker is under repairs right now, but still get the idea. Really shallow water animals. We have mangrove swamps. Then you get into the beaches. Then you start getting. You go down. You should feel like you're going down deeper as you go.
I love that. This is really cool. This is I think that's a very smart way to kind of tell the story too.
We struggled. What story do we want to tell? And it depends on how much money you have, because there's only so many tanks you can do. And we also have a few land animals in here. We have cotton-top tamarins and Toko toucans in this first exhibit. Nice. They were actually part of what we call Beaks and Feet Boulevard, which was in an exhibit right where the aquarium sits at now. Okay. So they got displaced from their old homes, and we thought, hey, how cool would it be to have them as part of the new exhibit too? So, yeah, great way to tie the past into the present too. That's really cool. Upside down jellies, again, trying to tell some stories about. Most people think about jellies in the open water and not upside down, and showing how animals adapt to different scenarios. So we go from Caribbean, actually more Gulf of Mexico. Here you start getting, this is still Gulf of Mexico down here. And as we go around the corner, start getting into Caribbean, all warm water, right around 80 degrees. Tortellini are sea turtle, green sea turtles in here. Okay. Where's Tortellini? Told you there we go. The bubble butt. Yeah. Yep. Oh my goodness. Hi, Tortellini. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Do we know the sex? Yeah, it's a female. Okay. Cool. We are in the process of, when we first opened the building, we asked Fish and Wildlife, can we get a couple? And they're like, hey, why don't you just start with one and we'll see how things go. So now that we've been open for about a year, we're in the process of looking at adding probably another species, maybe a Ridley. Okay, yeah. All these stingrays that you see in here are graduates of our touch pool. Okay. They've grown quite a bit since they first arrived.
You would need a large touch pool for
right.
it to be that. So what was the thought process in having the sea turtle in the more shore shallow area? Because obviously they do that, but they also go all the way to the depths.
Yeah, we had actually a discussion, but we didn't want them in this tank because we didn't want them chewing off all of our artificial coral.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's probably the reason, I don't remember the exact discussion, but our shark tank would have been number 2 choice. But being able to have them in here, allows us the opportunity to train them near a shore, get them out of the water if we had to.
Sure.
For any reason. We could do that up in the shark tank too, but it'd be a little bit more difficult. But also we have a lot of artificial coral in the shark tank.
Gotcha.
And they can tend to be mischievous.
Oh yeah. They there's a reason I love them. And it is oh, watch out.
Oops, sorry.
It is the personalities that most people don't realize they have. Yeah. No, that's cool. I actually really like it when they're when turtles can be displayed effectively in the shallow areas. It just gives you a better look at them, which I like as a guest. But B, I think it then helps to focus. You can focus messaging on they're by the shore. They come out, turn the lights off, don't bother nesting turtles, all that stuff, which you can still say when they're in a big ocean tank, but it's a little different when you can see it. Yeah.
And although most of your turtles do spend time in the deeper waters, the majority of them spend most of their lives in relatively shallow water where they're feeding off the seagrasses and algae. I feel like a focus is on the turtle in here as opposed to if it was mixed in with the sharks, just one or the other.
Right. No, makes sense to me. I like it.
So Caribbean, all this is Caribbean animals, anywhere from South Florida down to the northern parts of South America.
Oh, this is cool. A whole little seagrass area. I've not seen something like that in many places.
So the original intention here was to have pipefish in here. We do have some pipefish in here, but the whole thing was, okay, we have pipefish here, we have seahorses around the side, and you can make that comparison between the two. Even though they're related, they've kind of gone different directions on the evolutionary scale. But since adding the bang-eye cardinals in here, they pop, and so it's real easy to not even look for the pipefish and spend most of your time talking about the bang-eye cardinals, which also have a great story, conservation story, and allow you to tell that story with people that are coming through.
That's very cool. Yeah, they are beautiful fish, too. They just, hard to miss them.
So we also wanted to make sure that this was all ADA compatible, easy. Kids in strollers, wheelchairs, wagons. You'll notice that if you go to a lot of other aquariums, sometimes they get really fancy. It's like artwork, and sometimes they have tanks that are 5 feet off the ground. Well, that means if there's a kid in a wheelchair, he doesn't get to see, or she doesn't get to see what's in that tank. So we made sure everything was real close to the ground. If it didn't go the whole way to the ground, that it was at least close. So kids weren't going to miss stuff.
Right. That's really cool.
We have a few seahorses in here. Of course, when you build an aquarium, you have to have a dory tank. So we have that down here. A couple of small baby sharks down there. This is our first touch tank in here. And this is like 80-degree water that's in here. So I have 2 touch tanks, one at the front end and one at the very last tank you hit, and it's at 55 degrees. And so the whole reason behind that was kids would have an experience touching something warmer. Their hands are in the water, it's warm. They go around the back, and this is the first thing that I went to when we opened up the aquarium. See the reaction of kids when they put their hands in 55-degree water. Like, oh! Because there's a lot of kids, especially here in the Midwest, that might not have ever been to an ocean before.
Right.
It's all the same.
Right.
All the oceans are the same. So if you start off with temperature, you get their experience of dipping their hand in 55-degree water, the reaction, and immediately start talking about the differences in not only temperatures, but currents and water chemistry, and that leads to different plants and animals being able to live in those areas. So that's why we do.
That's cool. I really like that. That makes a lot of sense.
So a little pupping area here.
That's cool.
Again, having the opportunity to talk about most people, especially here in the Midwest, again, the thought process is, and my grandpa used to say this when I was little, sharks are bad.
Gotcha.
Well, not all sharks are dangerous to humans.
Right.
And being able to, if you have a kid that comes here, well, that's not going to kill me.
Nope. Their sharks are incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
So the majority of sharks, there's only a handful of sharks that are dangerous to humans, unless you start bugging them.
Yeah.
But having that conversation is a good thing to have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh my goodness, you have fish in your ceiling.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Oh, wow.
So you should feel now you're getting a little bit deeper.
Yep.
You got schooling fish overhead. I first look into our shark tank to the right. And although we're not quite there yet, we're building ourselves a reef here.
Okay.
We had some problems when we started. We couldn't figure it out. It's probably a combination, as is always the case with problems that occur. Of why we're having problems growing the corals. What's going on? We changed a whole bunch of stuff. So we took a few fish out and we realized that they were the culprits. So now you can see we're adding corals back in. Mm-hmm. It's just at the beginning phases. So again, the evolution of an aquarium.
Yeah, they seem to be doing really well. Oh, this aquarium is so cool. I like this setup a lot. The going deeper thing is a really cool take. Yeah.
Yeah, we really like that too. One of the other things that daygoers have no idea about, but this was really intricate. We wanted this not only to be an attractant during the day, but an evening experience too, so we could use this as a rental space. This whole wall right here can get shoved into that wall back there, and it opens up and basically doubles the space.
Okay.
Which allows you to have a place. My son got married here.
Nice.
So it's a great place to have for evening events, whether it be a family or a business event. And we've used it quite a bit.
That's awesome. Yes, so, highly recommend getting married at zoos. We did that as well. So
we moved from the Atlantic to the Pacific. This big shark tank is right around 350,000 gallons.
Nice.
And have all the animals in here from the Indo-Pacific. And we do have 3 different species of sharks. We've got zebra sharks, we've got sand tiger sharks, and one brown shark in here. And we have a big Maori wrasse, Napoleon wrasse over there.
Wow. These sharks are something.
The sand tiger sharks specifically, and I know they're fairly common in aquariums, but again, being able to talk about them coming around, and honestly, they look pretty scary with those pointy teeth. You think that they would do a lot of harm, but it's a perfect opportunity to talk about. I don't even recall somebody being bitten by a sand tiger in the wild, unless it might have been on a fishing experience or something along those lines. Again, you forcing yourself upon the shark. But being able to tell that story about, hey, that's a big shark and they don't eat people.
Right. No, that's cool. This is awesome. I like the signage, the moving signage here that shows all of the different animals. That's very cool.
Again, that's kind of a learning experience. We've seen at other aquariums where it's either static or you see them and then it flips.
Right.
Sometimes you have an interactive where the kids are able to, or guests are able to go to each one. But when you start doing the interactive, it takes away from everybody else's experience and focuses on one, as opposed to there could be 300 people in this area and they don't get to see what's in the tank.
That makes sense to me. Oh, nice. Got some more overhead viewing here.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of that.
This is a hemi tunnel, and it started off as a cost reduction effort. This was originally supposed to be a full tunnel, but if it were to be a full tunnel, it would have stopped right about here. And that would have bottlenecked things. I've seen in other aquariums where the tunnel is the reason for long lines and dissatisfaction. So it was less expensive to do it this way, but I'm actually happier that we did this because it allows this drive-by section to the left. So if you see it's getting crowded, you don't want to stick in a line, maybe you're a little claustrophobic, you can zoom right through. You can stand here and watch for a little bit, or you can have the full experience and sit down and watch things over a period of time.
Yeah. That's very cool.
And you still get the experience. Some of the fish and the sharks will go right over top of you.
No, this is great.
So now you've reached the deeper oceans. We've had some good experiences. Their moon jellies seem to do okay in one of these cylinder tanks, but we haven't necessarily mastered the flow of some of the cylinders. Like these spotted jellies, they're doing okay, but I wouldn't say they're thriving at this point. However, our sea nettles love this tank.
Nice.
When we first opened, I was undercover boss. I was standing here and just listening to people, and there was a mom who was telling her young daughter that's just a green screen, honey. And ordinarily, when I'm just listening to her guests, I won't say anything. But I had to at that point say, no, I can assure you that those aren't. Of course, I at that point forgot that I didn't have my uniform on, and she's looking at me like, "Who the heck are you?" So I had to go through the whole explanation. I guarantee you that those are live.
That is so funny. It does. I get it though. It's so beautiful, and it looks like an amazing screensaver on an HD TV.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah.
I've contemplated putting like a little bench here, but I don't want to slow the flow down too much. But literally, you can get mesmerized by.
Oh yeah,
those guys are standing there.
Stunning.
Got our deep sea areas here, so isopods, deep sea isopods, and Japanese spider crabs.
Very cool. There's your buddy.
My favorite.
Yeah.
It's actually one of our newest additions. Okay. This is a giant Pacific octopus. We recently had our last one pass away. And in fact, it's really two tanks. So where you see the kelp here, there's actually a panel of acrylic there. So we can keep a smaller one on the other side. The idea is the smaller one on the other side, a bigger one over here. As they age out, then you can swap them around and keep that continuing.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
What a very cool. Oh, look at you. Such a good octopus.
Hey guys, are you going to see that just a minute?
That's so cool.
That's like
impressive.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we try to make a bigger exhibit in here. Sometimes they get too boxy, and you don't need to have huge exhibits for octopus, but you would like to have so that they can search around and be enriched. So another one of my favorites are manna shrimps.
Yeah, they're really cool.
As you can see, we made homes for them, and then they decided to make
their own.
homes.
That's really funny. Yeah, the best laid plans, right?
Right. Now you're starting to see the light again.
Yep.
This is all mostly Pacific Coast stuff, cold water animals that at one point in time when this was built, this was the only cylinder like this in the world. I'm sure somebody else has one.
Sure.
Mostly it's for the moray eels in here. And of course, the morays came from SeaWorld San Diego. We've got probably 50 holes in here for them to explore. But in San Diego, they were in back holding tanks, round tanks. So occasionally they'll use the holes, but most of the time they're just out here along the bottom.
Hey, whatever makes them happy, I guess.
Oh, this guy's using a hole. So we do have a wolf eel up here.
Oh, nice.
Utilizing his hole.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Another one of my favorites. And I love him because he used the hose.
Yeah, fair.
Here's the other side of that wall.
Sure.
So this whole thing opens up, and opens up the space.
Nice. That's really cool.
Kelp forest tank, again, cold water, cuttlefish.
This is one of my favorite species. I am obsessed. We have dwarf cuttlefish at Aquarium of Niagara as well. And I'll just sit at the tank for like way too long sometimes. One inked at me once, just like through the glass, but it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I wasn't bothering it. I was just standing there, but I guess I looked scary. I don't know.
Yeah, they're pretty neat animals.
Yeah, I really love them. Hi. Oh, so cool.
And again, you have the octopus just down the hallway.
Yep.
You have another cephalopod that's over here. You can do some comparison and contrastion of, they're related, but they look different. Have that conversation.
Yeah, no, they're so cool.
Monkey face prickleback. Honest to God, we brought him in because of the name.
Yeah, I believe it. Yep.
And then you get close to the end of your experience with our sea otters, and of course they're both sleeping right now.
That's awesome.
You got to sleep sometime. The nice thing about sea otters, and I told you that these are rehab animals, they couldn't go back out to the wild, but they're so always on the go, high metabolism that, they're going to sleep, but they also eat 6 times a day. So they are rarely a bummer for people who are like, oh, I'm here and they're sleeping.
Right.
Most of the time they're active.
That's cool.
Yeah. They're the most expensive eaters that we have.
Well, yeah, six meals of seafood a day would be a lot.
Right. It's not cheap seafood either.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
You guys don't get them gas station sushi?
Yeah, right. So finally, we ended up, this is the touch tank that I was talking about before, all Pacific Coast, 55-degree water. And again, it's meant to start that conversation of the different waters that are found around the world.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Here's the second donor wall that I was talking about. And then just outside of here, as people are going towards elephants on the outside wall, that's where the smaller donor wall is.
Nice. So, very cool.
Gives everybody that sense of ownership.
Yeah, love it. And then, am I correct in saying, do I remember correctly, that this aquarium, when you built it, has its own vet hospital along with there being a vet hospital for this?
Yeah. So I've got about 20 minutes, and I'm sorry, I do have to go to a kennel later on today.
No worries.
And try to introduce my dog to another dog.
That's very important. Yeah. We are huge dog people. Yeah.
So I have enough time to either kind of whirl you around Africa so you get a layout of the zoo. We can do behind the scenes here.
Let's do behind the scenes here.
Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We love behind the scenes. Plus, I'll come back and we can do Africa once it's open and I can see the animals.
So we try to use all of our combined experiences from the past to make sure that we did as best we could when we were doing not only the exhibits, but behind the scenes. So things that you learn, use fiber grade as opposed to the wood as much as you can, or metal, even worse.
Sure.
Trying to use plastics and PVCs and fiberglass so that you don't run down the road and have rusting everything and you can replace it all the time. Also trying to squeeze out as much behind the scenes holding areas as you can. So you'll see anywhere where we have some space, we're utilizing that for the potential. The tank right in front of us has nothing in it right now, but you got to be ready for when you need it, whether it be for quarantine or for medical reasons.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to head up the stairs.
Cool. Sounds good.
The entire building is LEED silver on a green side of things, trying to make sure that we're walking the walk as well as talking the talk.
Very good.
Shark holding. As you can see, there's a few fish in here. They we don't seem to lose too many. You can't tell if that's open. Sometimes they'll just be open to the pool. The fish can go back and forth.
That's cool.
Like it's actually closed. So these guys might be just about ready to be introduced to the tank. See some more that are over in the quarantine tank.
So is that the main shark tank over there?
Yeah, we're gonna look down on it right now.
Nice.
One thing that we tried to use our experience on too was making sure that it's easy and safe for our staff too, especially coming from aquatic/diving background. Making sure that it's nice and easy to get down into the tanks without hurting your back or twisting an ankle or a leg.
Yeah, I haven't seen steps and like a door into a lot of areas you would dive before. At best, it's like a chintzy ladder. So that's pretty cool to see. I like that.
Well, we fought for that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, for example, that California moray eel exhibit, when we were going through the planning stages for that originally, the architect showed us some plans and like, well, that looks really nice, but how do you get in it? So, well, you just put up a ladder. I'm like, no, stop you right there. Those are the sort of things. You hear nightmare stories from folks who have built aquariums, and you hear staff now say, yeah, we got to put up a ladder. We have to haul up all of our stuff. And tried to make it as easy as possible.
That's cool.
We weren't really the first to do this, but the ideology, the viewing panel, that's the big wall over there, the bubble's over there, the tunnel is over there. You're looking down through the reef into the depths of the ocean. So none of this back here, at least the floor-wise, is able to be seen.
Right. This is really cool to see how different it looks up here. And it's very well done. Very cool. Ooh, look at the shark fin doing shark fin things. That's exciting.
What were you looking at?
Oh, one of the sharks was up high enough where the fin was just cutting through the water. And I was like, it's doing the shark fin thing.
Get a better look of the reefer side of things. It is pretty neat to see once these sharks go back into the black area, how well they camouflage in with their surroundings.
Yeah, this is really beautiful up here too. This is very well done. Not surprisingly, but yeah. I noticed both in here and in penguins, there's a really big focus on lighting. And these are like different lights than I've seen anywhere else, and there are a lot of them. Is there any, what's special about this lighting?
In the penguin building, all of those were put in there so that it could mimic sunrise, sunset.
Nice.
And there are a few metal halides in there, but the majority of them are LEDs. These are all LEDs. The problem with LEDs is they don't necessarily have as much punch to them. And you can see that there's different wavelengths that they're using.
Yeah.
So all that was just done to try to mimic nature and yet still have penetration into the water.
Very cool.
And again, also trying to reveal our greenness. Those metal halides use up a lot of power, and the bulbs don't last very long either.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I like it. I really like the lighting here. I've never seen, like I said, I've been behind the scenes at a lot of aquariums, and I've never seen structures quite like this. And big fan. They seem to be working.
Well, you also have to remember, too, the technology changes.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I know.
So with ours only being a year and a half old, a lot of this is newer technology, too.
Yeah.
You know, you go to a new aquarium in 5 years, and you'll probably see some different stuff than what we have.
Sure.
These are all just quarantine tanks for smaller animals that we can use. You see, we're raising up some different species of corals in here before they'll go out to the exhibit. All of our dive stuff is up here.
Yeah, I feel like I want to get dive certified at some point here.
It does bring in a different aspect when you're actually able to stay down at a certain depth. But I will say, even for me, and I love diving, but you are more free when you are just snorkeling.
Yeah, I believe that.
So just over the past year, I snorkeled the Great Barrier Reef for the first time. I snorkeled down in Jamaica, a couple other places where I've gone, and I've done both. I've done snorkeling and diving. And sometimes if it's really clear water, why get the hassle of all the dive
Right.
stuff?
No, that makes sense.
So this is on top of our more eel exhibit.
Oh, okay, yeah, this is that.
All of our Pacific fish tanks are below us here. Kelp tank over here.
That's very cool. It's really cool seeing how, like, I see what you're talking about. Like, these are way easier to get into than any other aquarium exhibit I have seen from the top. Yeah, even the cylinder, it has a little, this is great.
Yeah, and I'm not saying we didn't make mistakes. I'm sure, especially in the next few years, we'll be like, why didn't we do that? But we put a lot of time and energy and thought process into it. It'd have been much easier not to have to figure out how are we going to put a ledge in there that people from down here can't see the stairs, as opposed to you're having this higher and just have the divers do a belly flop in.
Yeah.
But this is definitely safer, and it's better. It's better. I'm sure there'll be better stuff that comes down the road. Bathrooms and dive lockers and showers.
Ugh, I'm so jealous of the way the showers are all separate and nice here.
This is our upper level. We have 4 levels, really 3.5. So this is our half level, almost entirely filtration. We have our ozone generating room up here, protein skimmers. We decided to go, all these little black boxes are drum filters.
Okay.
So we do have a few sand filters, but not many. We decided to go that direction. It was a little bit of a leap of faith. There are only a few other aquariums that use those drum filters as opposed to sand filters, but it's much better energy-wise because you don't have to have as many pumps, and you can rely on just the waterfall from another level down to the exhibits as opposed to the water being pumped to the exhibit. But you do lose a little bit of clarity and quick clarity. So the sand filters can get rid of that muck or dusty look much quicker than these will. So we took a little bit of a leap of faith. Our big shark tank today, I didn't mention it while I was down there, but it was a little on the cloudy level. And some directors were like, no, it's got to be gin clear. I'm not really like that. Right. To me, it looks a little bit more natural.
Yeah.
So if it is, it is. If it's clearer than that, so be it. Anyway, just wanted to show you that.
No, that's really cool. I love LSS stuff. I think it's so cool. It's just so
You're either in on that or you're out on that, because I can give tours behind the scenes, and you can definitely tell that some people are like walking zombies that, can you take me back out to the public area? But then the other 50% are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that there's this much stuff behind the scenes. Down the hallway there, we have our own oxygen or air generation system for filling our own tanks.
Nice.
So that was something before. We'd have to once a week or once every couple of weeks go out to a dive shop, spend an hour or an hour and a half out there, have them do our tanks, spend, I forget how much it was a tank, $10, $15. Now we can do it all ourselves.
That's awesome. Is this elevator used for animal transport sometimes too?
Yeah, that's why it's heavy duty.
That's what I figured.
Stainless steel. I think it's 10,000 pound max. So if we had a shark, the biggest thing is we have a shark in a carboy full of water. Mm-hmm. It's really honestly like a hospital unit where you're having somebody from the ICU that is being rolled in on this heavy duty bed. It's kind of like that.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, just the opposite of the other 2 levels we were just on. Now we're underneath the building.
Okay.
It's really the heart of the operation. We do everything from mixing salt.
Oh my gosh. There is so much salt in here.
Yeah.
Did you ever just like grab a thing of fries and come in here and go to town?
The fun thing about this is that these were the first things that were from the entire building that were built. So they have to hammer out in the bedrock I think we have about 30,000 gallons worth of saltwater storage space in here. They can mix it up. You can see we have one that has sea otter mixing. Sea otters don't need the full array of salts, minors, and traces. So there's on one. The other ones are for fish and invertebrates. And we can use these big bags. Oftentimes we have the small boxes. It's the same thing, just in different package.
I did not know that Morton Salt makes water crystals.
Well, that's for a water softener.
Oh, okay. I just saw the name Morton. Okay, I was like, that's really funny.
So they don't.
Salt.
You're right.
Okay.
They make that for the water softeners, which we have. The other stuff comes from another company on the East Coast. And we get a shipment of that probably 4 or 5 times a year.
Oh, the food area.
Yep.
Boy, do I spend a lot of my time in one of these.
All of our food is prepped in here.
Yeah.
And, even though most of the animals are getting small amounts, you still have a wide variety of stuff that ranging from shark food to turtle food, lots of lettuce storage in here. But it's a necessity, and we had to make the decision on whether we wanted to have an actual place to prep food here or over our diet kitchen or central diet kitchen, add on to that. We just decided let's just have it in the building, and it takes a step out of things.
Cool. It's cool to see even just like all of the piping here and everything is also new. It's always the first stuff that starts to look crappy when you go to like older places,
Right. Well,
it's
you'll
also
see
pretty.
that a lot of the stuff that we have is PVC.
Yeah.
And we used gray PVC for the most part because it's a little bit thicker, a little bit stronger, less likely to crack. But yeah, you're right. As you age, you get dust, and some of the pipes are metal, so there'll be some rusting. It still has that new look to it.
Yeah, it's pretty.
As you go around the basement here, you'll see all of our pumps in here, the ones that have the black insulation on them, they're all going to our colder water tanks. Lots of storage down here as well. We have our water quality laboratory down here. Good morning.
Oh, this is such a nice setup.
I'm not looking on. Give me a quick tour. So everything from just daily water quality, ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, but they can dissolve oxygen. They can test for all sorts of stuff, especially with the invertebrates. They have other stuff that they need to test for. Corals are much more sensitive. But this is where all that happens.
Yeah, I recognize some of these pieces. The very limited amount that I do at Aquarium of Niagara. But
Yeah,
this is a
again,
really nice lab.
Some of our stuff might be a little bit more shiny because it's new, but basically the same. You'll have different companies or different looks for the equipment, but they're doing the same stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I know. Very cool. I like this. This just looks like we're at a Home Depot right now. All of the like extra stuff for as you build and move stuff, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah. Or you have to have things in place for if you get something that cracks. Yeah. You can't just and granted, we're not going to have a ton of all this on board, but if you have some pieces that you can slap in for immediate repair while you're waiting on some other products, you just have to have that. So our life support folks have done a great job on preparing for the inevitable. You'll have leaks. It's just a matter of when and what.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. Very cool.
There's what the Morton's goes to, our water softeners.
Yeah.
So that's really our very first thing that we have to do as water enters into the building, because we get water just like everybody else does through the city, very high chloramine here. So immediately we have to try to get rid of that chlorine before we even think about mixing salt water in with it. And so that's the first thing it hits as it enters the building. Then from there, it goes to wherever we need it.
Cool.
So I told you before, we spend so much time looking at every single detail and trying to figure out how we're going to utilize the space appropriately. And we got almost to the point where we were bringing some animals in and we were going to need this area. And we realized that we didn't have any water coming into the area. We had failed to pipe any water in. So those 2 pipes right there are add-ons because we missed it.
It happens.
Yeah. So one of those things that is so important yet fell through.
Oh man, that's really funny, honestly.
So if you look up into the walls here, you can see some window frames up there, and that is just how we get in to clean the areas that we're storing our salt water. So you saw where we made it back there.
Yeah.
After it gets made and mixed around appropriately, we send them into these storage areas. This is for our warm weather side, and over there where those stairs lead up into, that's for our cold water. So we have a chiller that's on there. And again, that's something new that when I first started my career, if a cold water pool was getting a water change or a filter clean out, you just added whatever water you had back into it, and you expected the animals to adjust to it.
No.
Well, if you're adding, 10%, might not be that big of a deal. If you're doing 50% and you have water that's coming in that's 80 degrees and the water that's already in there is 55 degrees, now you're talking about 75 degrees or 70 degrees. That's quite a difference for those animals to have to deal with. So this is a much better way of doing things.
That's really cool. I like that.
So in a roundabout way, that's pretty much it for behind the scenes here.
Nice.
It's a real quick go through, but
no, I love it. Thank you so much for doing this.
Sure.
We appreciate it.
We have backups for all of our pumps. So if let's say we had a crack in this pipe right here, we could isolate it, make sure that we still have the other pump on, 50% filtration.
Very cool. Love it. Awesome. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do all this.
Hey, you're
really
welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right, so there you have it, folks. A really fun, really deep look at the building that puts Aquarium into Kansas City Zoo and Aquarium. So, again, I apologize for the audio quality. It's just proof that sometimes hugs aren't beautiful things, I guess. No, I don't know. But despite that, I'm really curious what you thought of this. This is the first time we've ever done an episode that was like a true tour through a building. We've done tours through animal collections before, like with Jake Belair, but this was a brand new thing, and I've wanted to try something like that for a while, and it wasn't really my intention to do it this day with Sean. It just kind of worked out that way. But please let me know what you thought about this, if this is something you would like to hear from time to time. Again, I'm never going to change the main format of the interviews, but I personally thought it was fun, and I personally thought, listening back to it months later, that it was it felt like I was at the aquarium, and so I really liked it, but I want to hear what you like. And I want to hear from all of you, regardless of whether you're a patron or not, but especially if you are a patron, and especially if you're a Red Panda level patron, like Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, and Kevin Williams. So, thank you all for your support. Don't forget that you can support the pod for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. And we'll be back here on Friday with an episode of Zoo News. news. But until then, remember, friends, the word credits backwards is Steiderk. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.